Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Disclosure Tonight. Yes, I know we haven't been around for a bit. I've been out sick with COVID-19. Yeah, 5 years later, you thought it was gone, but no, it's back to get us here. Yeah, so I will try, and things are a bit blurry. Can't focus on stuff right now, but boy, Mike, are you there with me, my friend? How you doing today?
Oh, it's another Friday, it seems like.
Yeah, another
Could be
fuck you
fun.
Friday for that one.
You got it.
Yeah, well, at least it's not our fuck you.
No.
Oh my goodness, Mike! It's on the title card. You've heard the reasoning behind it. You've heard the pushback on Twitter. How about that? How about LUE'S giant flying saucer, my friend? Wow.
Well, unvetted. Seems like the chandelier that he put out there a while ago.
Yeah. But isn't like Lou the leader of this disclosure organization? He's not like a Han Solo with like a Chewbacca flying around in the Millennium Falcon, isn't he? He's like part of an organization, but it sounds like the way things going, what he was saying, the way it goes, it sounds like he doesn't have a team, does he?
No, it really doesn't. That's a good point. Seems like the UAPDA, it's the Wild Wild West. He's running.
You mean
I can't say he's not solo.
You mean the UAPDF, and I'm not exactly sure what that DF stands for.
Disclosure Fund.
Are you sure? There's two other DFs it could possibly stand for as well.
Yeah, good point.
Oh God, what a mess.
Yeah.
What an absolute mess. Yeah, I tried to watch the their whole presentation yesterday. It was a science national security briefing that they were in, an intelligence briefing, right?
Correct.
Not much intelligence in bringing out that picture, I tell you. My God. And I gotta give Matt Ford a round of applause for the director of strategy. Great strategy on that microphone setup. Holy cow! Yeah, it was about almost as good as the last time they were in the House of Representatives, wasn't it? Maybe a little bit worse.
It was pretty bad, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Could hardly make anything out.
Yeah. Well, I tried. I tried to listen to it. I had to crank up the audio really, really loud. Yeah, okay, they want to show that UFO again. I'll see what I can do to go ahead and find that UFO. Let's see if we can keep the audience entertained. It should be out there everywhere on X. Yeah, honestly, folks, I've been sick as a dog in bed for the last week and wanted to get back to our audience and the panel in the back and everybody. And there's just a lot of stuff that's gone on in the last week and would have loved to have been here covering a lot of this stuff live. But wow, what a week. And
then some. But we'll cover it. There's a lot to talk about.
All right. Let's see if I can find... there we go. Got a picture of it. The audience wants to see the picture of the flying saucer being held up by Lou Elizondo. I think I've got that, Mike. Let's see if this works here still. There we go. I believe that's Lou's hand. So this is the irrigation circles that were seen somewhere near Four Corners, I believe, Mike.
Yes, correct. It was Four Corners.
Yeah,
Four Corners. Private pilot.
Yeah, private pilot. You just got the permission right before it. Nothing was vetted. Nothing was... But didn't Lou several years ago say that they had this high-end AI system that they could take pictures into and feed them into, and it would pretty much identify what the actual objects were? I wonder whatever happened to that.
Well, obviously, the UAPDF isn't using that type of equipment, or they don't have it available.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like. So
that could possibly be it. That could possibly
be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Disappointment. For me, this whole thing, what's been going on, first, we had David Grush, who, actually, before we get off onto that tangent, Syrup, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah, and Lou's defense, I think he received that picture that day, but he doesn't have the best track record of posting up pictures of UFO and stuff like that. I think I think he said it. He's not. I don't get the notion he's a UFO guy. I think he's just in the know on some
call
UFO
bullshit
type
on
stuff.
that. Well, of course he's a UFO guy. Let's be realistic. How many years has he been balls deep in UFOs since 2017? Oh, wait, wasn't he the head of ATIP before?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get what
he
you're
is.
saying.
At one point, yeah.
You know, excuses are like assholes. Everybody's got one. But to say he's not a UFO guy, no, it is what it is. And the community at large is just ripping Lou apart, rightfully so.
I just feel like he knows a lot of stuff. I just don't. He just doesn't. He's not.
He's
Fucking, I don't
not
know
by
how to explain
himself.
it. He's not-
He should have an organization around him, right? Experts, you can say, hey, Matt, you know what? Do me a favor. Go ahead, check this out. Figure out what you can find out. We need to know in half an hour before we go live, right?
I don't want to call him dumb or anything, but I
No,
just
I'm
feel
not.
like
I would
he's,
never do that.
He gets caught slipping a lot. He doesn't. I don't know, man. He makes mistakes easy.
Yeah. It just seems disclosure squanders in the meantime. Appreciate the insight, Sarah. Ed, go ahead.
So I may make a fool of myself in saying this, but I've flown over thousands of those, and I'm not convinced that's an irrigation system.
It is
I
an
think
irrigation.
that's-
There's been some good vetting of this picture, and there's been good analysis of the picture, and it's not a giant flying saucer. It is an irrigation circle.
Why does it cut through the white one then? Why would it cut through the road, directly through that circle? And the other thing, I've seen
Why
a bunch
doesn't
of
why
these,
doesn't
and maybe-
why is the shadow perfectly underneath it instead of, one stacked by the other? Because they're next to each other. They're not, one is not above the other.
Yeah, well, I know that was the explanation, but I'm looking at the picture right now. I've seen a close up of it on another website, and I don't know. I just never have seen them that contrasted like that. They're normally the same color, like they're all green or they're all dark
Well,
or whatever.
You take a low resolution grainy picture and put it in black and white, and that's what you get.
Yep.
Clearly
Well,
not a color photo.
Yeah, well, I'm just throwing that out. The tendency is this. I think first of all, we see something like that and we're all excited. Hey, we just saw a flying saucer. Okay, that's great. And then someone debunks it, and then Lou just gets trashed because of it.
Well, who is? I mean, you got to consider who Lou Elizondo is. He's the former head of ATIP. Remember, he saw all of this imagery, all these videos, interviewed all these different people.
Well,
But this is the second case, though. The other one where you had Pepper's Ghost, where you had a reflection of a chandelier on a window that someone was taking a picture of, and he called that, and even called out and said at that particular point in time that had been verified recently or something to that extent. It's just, it's disheartening to me to see this kind of shenanigans going on.
He should vet it a lot better. So, see, I can get on here and make a fool out of myself because no one knows who I am. But Lou, I mean, that's another issue. He should not do that until it's properly vetted. I agree with that.
You have to think of all the different people that have sent him stuff since he got out, and he left ATIP, and he's been in this since 2017. To say this is the only real good picture he's been given. Heck, I've even sent him stuff better than this. Heck, when he was on the show last time, we actually went over on it. We have the what do you call it? The red arrows getting dive bomb by a UFO over Malta, and that's the only time we actually have a video of a fighter jet getting an aggressive move from a UFO. Just saying. I wish it was different, but it's kind of where we're at right now, and it's a sad state of affairs, to say the least. This whole, if you want to call it disclosure of national secrets, things that have been going on, has just turned out to be one disaster after another, and it's not delivering anything near what we had hoped, even a tenth of what it possibly could have been. Ashes?
Hi there, Thomas. So minutes after that photo had been dropped on the briefing, my ex was flooded with people debunking or memeing Lou Elizondo. Now, I agree with what has been said here. I also think, though, that the briefing was a good thing to have happened because it sparks people's interest when it's at that level. For me, I got reinterested back into UAP, UFO at the time when the first hearing happened with
Yeah.
David Grush and Guy Udet. I thought that was really interesting, and it was something that I could verifiably share with friends of mine without feeling like I was going to be stigmatized because it was coming from that level. So I thought that was good, but unfortunately, I hated. It was very daunting to sit through that hearing, to listen to it and turn my TV up like you did, because you could barely hear it, and I had to scrap through and just find my way to a transcription. But not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody is as interested as people like us.
Yeah. Well, you know, it could have been a good opportunity if they actually had audio that people could actually listen to.
Exactly. And that
I
was
mean,
very-
honestly, there were probably better bathroom tapes coming from Matt Laszlo. And I was actually thinking, wow, did they team up with Matt for the audio on this? Sure as heck seemed like it. Oh, wait a minute. I think would that be Matt Ford's responsibility to tell you the truth?
Right.
But,
well, you could even hear in the background, one of the cameramen were like, I can't hear. So even the people in the room could barely hear what they were saying in the room.
It's like they didn't get to the room ahead of time and do a sound check and do a level check before they click the button to go ahead and start their live stream and everything. Wait a minute, they didn't go ahead and invest in any lav mics or wireless mics for the people who are going to be speaking, so it could actually be picked up by what they're actually trying to go ahead and broadcast. It's just...
This is an important matter. That is so frustrating.
Yeah, no, really quick, you're talking about that. Now, let me go ahead and bring this one up. This is something that they'll never live down. Let me go ahead and bring this one up here. Where is it at? Go full guest. Here you go right now. All right, so this is a little piece that came up coming from the UAP Disclosure Fund. Captured near Four Corners at FL 210, approximately 600 to 1,000 feet in diameter, silver-hued, disc-shaped. Released moments ago by Lou Elizondo during our Science, National Security and Innovation panel. Several speakers confirmed DoD and IC hold hundreds of similar images and sensor files still classified. It's time for full declassification and open scientific analysis of irrigation. It just doesn't get any better than that. My goodness. Abe, your hand is up, my friend. Abe?
Yeah, I just want to say I got a range of mixed emotions. On one hand, you got Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet specifically mentioning my aircraft carrier and an incident that happened in 2021. So that was a huge weight off my shoulder because I've gone through multiple UFO experiences on that ship prior to 2021. And then Lou comes out with this photo, and then I've got people in my community from the Navy like, well, what is Lou talking about with this crazy ass photo when he was also speaking about the Department of Veterans Affairs and some kind of alien tech being inside the bodies of veterans? It's just a mix of emotions of what's going on. And then just to come down to the professionalism of the whole video, this is a congressional hearing with staffers and the audio is so trash. And now you're educating the public about multiple alien species and UFOs. I'm all over the place with this one.
Yeah. I guess before when I had heard about a lot of this stuff getting ready to come out, getting ready to happen, Abe, I told everybody, don't hold your breath. It could be a big nothing burger. And, well, kind of what we're at right now. and it just gives me concerns. This was their science and technology briefing, whatever they had, but they are going to be having their, or as innovation panel, I should call it. They are going to be having potentially a hearing coming up, but gosh, even the prospect of that, of what are they going to declassify to us coming from, remember, the reason we're having this hearing is because Anna Polina Luna went off and put out a letter on February, actually in the beginning of February, to all the heads of the different departments, from the head of the DOD to the director of national intelligence to the head of the FBI to the head of the CIA, demanding that they hand over all of their records and information about about UAPs so they could be declassified. What the heck is it going to even deliver at this point? It's a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword. We're getting, you know, like I said, I'm getting weight lifted off my shoulders with the Gallaudet thing, and then the Lou thing, and then the professionalism. So I'm all over the place. It's mixed emotions. I'm hoping that we're going to get something from this next hearing, but if it's going to be on the same pathetic level with the audio and visual stuff, like how are we going to educate the public moving forward? I'm not just talking about the United States public, the global public. We're one species, and we need to collectively start working on this, especially, you know, that they're going to these hearings and saying that there's a credible threat out there. So we need to professionally take a look at this and be out in the public with it.
You know,
thanks for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Abe. One of the things I want to reflect on that we talked about right before I went off and got sick was that Christopher Mellon had an interview somewhere. Was it on Cuomo, Mike?
Yeah, Cuomo has been doing a lot of interviews
on
this topic lately.
But on that interview with Cuomo, I believe that Christopher Mellon said disclosure has, if you want to call it, moved back several years. We've lost.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. He said that it's taken a step back and that things are not moving forward at the moment. And that was one of the last topics that we covered before you got sick with COVID.
Yeah,
I remember.
We've lost, not just that we've lost momentum, we've lost ground. And I hate to say, with where things have gone in this past week, I don't think we've gained any ground. If anything, I think we've lost a bit more. Except for one thing. There is a silver lining to this whole thing, Mike.
Yeah, what's that?
Jeremy Corbell.
Oh, yeah. Believe it or
At
not.
least he's delivering. At least he brought out a real whistleblower to talk about stuff. At least we have something to the Immaculate Constellation guy.
Yes.
Who's now in
Matthew
fear
Brown.
for his life.
He is, because he didn't get DOPSA clearance to speak publicly about anything. So, but it was interesting because if you remember when the shit hit the fan between Nancy Mace and Corbell, we were covering that. And what he said was, at that time, that he was going to bring his whistleblower out publicly without her or Congress because of how she screwed him over and the whistleblower. But then some months went by and we didn't hear anything. Not a word, not a peep. And then Corbell said something about his whistleblower does not want to come out publicly at this time. So we thought that was rapidly becoming another dead end, like most topics sometimes do in this this community. But then he dropped this bringing Matthew Brown out publicly last week, and we didn't see any warning ahead of time. So I don't know why the timing was what he chose it to be, and why Matthew Brown changed his mind about coming out publicly, because as we also found out, he didn't get government approval to speak about this. He's putting himself at risk by speaking publicly. He doesn't have congressional protection. He's not speaking in an official capacity. So he's exposed. It's very strange. The whole thing is a really odd rabbit hole to be going down. But like you said, it's new. It's not another witness that we're hearing about coming out of the Dr. Stephen Greer camp. So it's good to hear somebody that's not connected to any of that has something interesting to say, like the Immaculate Constellation program. So I agree.
Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities what this all turns into, and unfortunately we won't be see Daniel Brown testifying in front of the House of Representatives in the upcoming hearing. You never know. He may not, but it doesn't sound like it. But he'll be covering.
No, I don't think
we'll
so.
be getting more information coming from him
Tuesday.
on Tuesday, coming up this Tuesday.
Correct. We also covered this before the hiatus. The upcoming hearing, Representative Anna Paulina Luna had said publicly that they're going to be focusing on the documents that were dropped in the National Archives. So this hearing is going to be covering the information that the government had released.
And it's not just a.
So I don't really think we're going to get a lot from this. If it's an example of the JFK hearing that she did, that was a complete partisan politics shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Really unprofessional. I hope we don't get a repeat performance of that on May 12th. I really hope that's not the case, because between what's been going on publicly and how these things don't seem to be lining up and being credible, if this turns into another shit show, I think the public is going to really start to lose interest in this, like a lot of the Congress members that seem to be walking out of these presentations. Not a good sign.
Not.
No.
No, there's a lot of people who have been following this closely, and it is nice to see a lot of new people coming in, but it also feels like there's been a lot of people, Mike, who have been walking out the door.
Including Representative Luna, who left and didn't stick it out.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that involves her directly.
My next guest is
with her task force. So I don't know what kind of a message she's trying to send to the public, but I don't think it's a good one.
No,
even if she was bored to tears, she should have fucking sat there. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, but
she didn't. She did not.
How long was she there? Was she there up until the lunch break, or did she leave before the lunch break?
She made an excuse that she had to attend to other matters and that she had to leave prematurely.
Right.
So I think that was a bullshit excuse. She just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Okay, Paul DeMond says they have jobs, Mike, but wait a minute. Isn't this whole disclosure thing that was set up in this round table that was going to be going on, isn't this Anna Paulina Luna's thing?
Yeah, it's a task force's responsibility. It's her whole thing. She's running the show.
Right.
It doesn't fall on anybody else. So, yeah, she should have been there doing her job. And she didn't. So make all the excuses you want. It doesn't change the optics on this and make it any better. That's my opinion.
Right.
So I don't know. She's inexperienced. We know that. She's not a veteran as far as dealing with investigations or hearings along these lines. So she's, I feel, dropping the ball to a degree. I mean, again, let's go back to the JFK hearing. When there were partisan political attacks going against the witnesses that came there to testify, and she could have banged the gavel and broke that up. She didn't. She let them continue doing what they were doing, changing from the entire subject of what the hearing was about, the JFK. And it got to the point where the witnesses had to push back against some of the partisan attacks and said, listen, that's not what we're here for. We're here to discuss John F. Kennedy and the assassination, not the questions that were being directed at them, and they're asking for their opinions about the current administration. So she let that fiasco go on, and I have a feeling we're also going to get the same bipartisan attacks on one side of the aisle against the other in the next hearing. If they got away with it in the last hearing,
My next guest.
I have no doubt that they're going to do it again in the next hearing.
Yeah.
Just to make everybody look bad on the Republican side.
Yeah, and here's the one thing too. This is the whole disclosure thing is supposed to be bipartisan, right, Mike?
It's supposed to be, yeah.
And not just that, the whole declassification task force is bipartisan, right?
Yeah, the caucus is supposed to be
Right.
on both sides of the aisle.
Why aren't there any Democrats involved?
I'll tell you why. Because what seems to have happened is as soon as Trump won, it got divided Washington, D.C. to such a degree that it's almost like a civil war unfolding before our eyes. They're no longer bipartisan. They are openly engaging in open warfare, which is like what we usually see in the British Parliament, not here in the halls of Congress.
Right.
So something different. Not good, though. Not a good sign.
No.
And she's not controlling it. So
Yeah.
it's a shit show.
It
Like
looks
you
like,
and I have been saying.
yeah, it looks like we have a couple hands up in the back, Mike, Alice, Syrup, and then Andy. I'm going to step away for a second.
Sure.
Let you run with it, Mike.
I got it. Alice, go ahead. You're next.
Take somebody else first, because I was going to say something to Thomas. Not that's okay with you.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I was waiting.
Go ahead.
So I was impatiently waiting. No, thank you. So with these upcoming hearings, I'm not expecting anything big because I think what happened was David Grush didn't have his clearances to get in the SCIF. He's got one clearance now, right, Mike? But he needs the other one, which is more important.
Yeah, he's
So
got
he
top
can-
secret clearance restored, which is the lowest rung on the ladder. And he
And then-
needs the SCI, which is highest clearance to get into a skip, and they won't give it to him.
And they won't give it to him. If they said that they made it sound like they're working on it, right? If he can get that clearance and get into the SCIF, then I think that's when things will start to look bright for disclosure. But if that doesn't happen, then I think that's going to be a fucking problem, or a freaking problem. Sorry.
No, it's fuck you Friday, so you're more than welcome to be expressive in your opinions. We make allowances for today.
What do you think about that, though, Mike? Do you see him getting that clearance? Do you see them being able to give him that clearance? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I got to tell you, it seems like after Grush had publicly testified at the first UAP hearing, July 26, 2023, we heard recently from Matthew Brown, the Immaculate Constellation whistleblower, and he said that members of the government do not want to hear the name Grush mentioned, and if you do, you're going to be shit out of luck. They're either going to fire you or they're going to give you a shit job that'll make you not want to come into work. So Grush is a big deal. The government does not want any information that he has to come to Congress or to the public. And that's why this man has not had a clearance and been able to go into a SCIF for over 2 years now. And it doesn't seem like they're going to be going out of their way to provide that clearance to him anytime soon.
So is there anyone in Congress or anyone out there that has enough juice that's on our side that can get this man his clearance, or no?
The president of the United States, if he wanted to.
I knew you were going to say that, man, and that's what I was afraid of, man, because I feel like he's not interested in this.
Well, there is someone outside of the DOD. It's called the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She has the ability to go ahead and grant the security clearances required. So it doesn't have to come from the president, just doesn't have to come from the DOD. And here's the question: why do people keep on turning back to the DOD, the agency that covers all this shit up all the time? Go someplace else.
But Tulsi Gabbard could have resolved this pretty goddamn quickly, and she hasn't. What does that tell you? Oh, she's following orders from her boss, which is the president. Otherwise, she would have acted, but she did not. And like it was just pointed out, her boss doesn't seem overly interested in this topic, unfortunately. That could be a problem. And we're not going to hear from Grush. And even if he got into the skiff, the public isn't going to get any word of that. No information is going to come out of that.
Yeah.
But it seems like the government is hell-bent. Doesn't matter whose administration is in power right now. They don't want David Grush to be moving forward with the information that he's gathered.
Okay, you mentioned David Grush, and here's one of the things that was interesting that also came out this week from David Brown, that if you mention David Grush in the Pentagon, in the areas where he was working, you'll get walked out the door and told never to come back again. But if you mention Lou Elizondo, it's fine. Why is that? Why is it if you mention someone like Grush, who's a whistleblower, but Lou's not a whistleblower? If you mention the whistleblower's name, you'll get fired. If you mention Lou's, you don't get fired. What kind of special things are about Lou that affords that protection versus it doesn't afford that same protection to David Grush? That's what I would like to know. I smell a rat.
That's
honestly
a damn good question. I wish I had the answer for that, but I don't.
I smell a rat.
It doesn't make sense, but that's what Matthew Brown had said publicly. And I'm sure he'll repeat that again on Tuesday when he discloses more about his story.
It would be the same reason why people have seen Lou walking around Langley. You never know.
You never know.
Hey, not to jump in front of people with their hands up, but Thomas, I just want to understand: is what you're insinuating like is Lou on their side? Is that what you're getting at? Kind of. He's
who? Or no? I honestly don't know whose side Lou is truly on. I don't.
Lou himself has publicly stated that if he has to choose between disclosure and national security, he's a patriot and he wouldn't violate national security. So
right, which means all the stuff that we got from David Brown coming out, he would never have allowed to come out because it's a risk to national security.
Well, with the statements that Matthew Brown has been making, I don't think we would have publicly ever heard Lou making points like the same that Matthew Brown has. I doubt it. He knows where the line is and he toes the line. He wouldn't violate national security, but Matthew Brown is putting it all on the line because he has no protections in place. And the only thing he can do at this point is come out publicly with the full story. So if something happens to him or they go after him, at least the public is aware of it. So he'll have some protection. But Lou would never do that.
No, of course not.
Right. So we got to see how the Matthew Brown story plays out, which we're going to.
Yeah. Didn't James Clapper have his security clearances yanked by Trump? So who keeps on snuggling up to him in the set again? Someone keeps on referencing Clapper. Yeah, Clapper's well, I'll leave that out there.
That's partisan politics when you're getting into the other side of the aisle.
Exactly.
Which we avoid. We don't jump on one side or the other. But yeah, that's the previous administration, which the current administration has been going out of their way to block.
So beautiful.
Probably for good reason.
Yeah.
We don't like what the previous administration did in regards to disclosure at all.
Oh yeah. About that laptop, huh?
Oh God, yeah.
Andy
but
W.
To be balanced, though, like the only quick point I could make is that the current administration could be doing a lot more, and it doesn't seem to be right now.
Oh, that's a beautiful bird.
Hey, Greg, want to keep yourself muted when you're not talking, my friend? Thank you. Hello, girlfriend in bed.
No, sir. No, sir. My best
On the
friend.
couch.
Sorry,
Gotcha.
guys. Oh my God. I'm
Oh my
embarrassed.
God! Look,
Love
there's
you.
a flying saucer above your head. Oh no, that's just a lamp.
Oh yeah, no, that is a flying saucer. Good sir. Yeah, I have evidence. It's evidence right there.
Yeah, sorry about that,
Sorry,
Andy.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Thomas. Really good to see you back and see everybody else back. I want to bring up a point about Matthew Brown. Really interesting, Corbell and that bringing him out. And I didn't know he hadn't gone through DOPSR, so it's going to be interesting to see what actual things happen to this guy. You know, is a U.S. government going to ignore him? You know,
Or is Pam Bondi going to prosecute him?
or are they
I
going to
guess-
prosecute him? Now, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
if
Because if they do,
prosecute,
we know where we stand with disclosure at that.
we do, yeah. So, you know, maybe this is a bit of a game of chess that they are, that Corbell and Knapp are playing, So, yeah, if he gets prosecuted, well, we know the guy's 99.9% telling the truth. If he, they've got a reason. Where do they go with this? It's just really interesting where they brought him out right now, as you said a minute ago, Mike.
Yeah, that's true, Andy. And by the way, I shared with Thomas before we came back on the air your warm wishes for his recovery, and you yourself dealt with this previously.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it's just really good to see Thomas back, and everybody else back in the show. I hope you're doing
Yeah.
well, Thomas. Hope you're getting
Oh,
better now.
I'm feeling like shit, my friend. Trust me.
Oh,
Yeah, we came back because we've been off for a week, and there's been a lot going on recently, like with Matthew Brown. So we wanted to touch base with the audience and let everybody know we're still kicking.
I do have a news story on this to go ahead and play, Mike.
Let's do it.
Let me see if hopefully. Hold on, let me just double check this. Can you hear this? Hear this, Mike?
My next guest is a journalist who first reported.
Can you hear that at all?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Let me go ahead and play this clip. This is a clip coming to us from News Nation, talking about Daniel Brown. Let's get into this, and of course, coming from Michael Schellenberger, the guy who took the
God.
credit
Yes,
for
he
Daniel
did.
Brown's work. So let's see what Schellenberger has to say on this one. Here we go, everybody.
My next guest is a journalist who first reported on Immaculate Constellation. Michael Schellenberger also testified in front of Congress about the alleged program back in November. Michael Schellenberger joins us now. Great to have you back. So let's start with IMCON, as it's called, I guess, for short. Matthew Brown made a compelling case that the government's been collecting these videos and photos of UFOs for a long time, but we've seen those videos and photos too. What's the difference between what IMCON is doing and what we're all watching?
Yeah, well, hey, it's great to be with you. I think it's exciting because you now have whistleblowers come forward about this program. I had reported on it before and had multiple sources confirm the existence of this program. I think what's so important to know is that what they're saying is that the Pentagon, it's not just a few of these little videos coming out in dribs and drabs, but they are sitting on a significant body of photographic and video evidence that I also, people that did not know about the IMCON program told me of other videos that they had seen of orbs coming out of the ocean near Kuwait, for example, which I testified on as well. There is, I think everybody agrees, there's a huge amount of information that the Pentagon is sitting on, the intelligence community as well as sitting on it, that hasn't been released. And so it's not even the case that this shouldn't be very controversial. I mean, this is what these documents look like. The redactions are outrageous. I mean, you see, it says, what are the possible explanations? This is, by the way, the UAP task force. What are the explanations? And it blacks out two potential explanations.
Isn't it all blacked out? I mean, it looks like just the very top, like email from, is the only thing you can read.
Yeah, it sort of says, I mean, they black out, it says the UAP task force has collected redacted number of reports from this many, the number of years is redacted, and then potential explanations, they say it could be weather, but then there's two other potential explanations. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. This is information that we, the taxpayers, have paid for, and that the Constitution requires that Congress be able to see. The Pentagon's not letting Congress see it in violation of the Constitution. So it's time to get some disclosure going. We're way past past time for it.
What percentage, if you had to hazard a guess, of what the Pentagon has managed to accumulate, what percentage has become public? Are we talking 2%, 10%, 20%?
I've asked that question as well of multiple people. I've been told under 1%.
Under 1%.
I mean, just a tiny fraction. I mean, look at these. We're getting these tiny clips. We know that the Pentagon, various military activities are filming and capturing, and not just with photographic or video, but also other sensor data, infrared, radar. All sorts of data has been coming in over decades. If we're being honest, this goes all the way back to World War II. So we're just being treated like children. It's time for the Trump administration to really take disclosure seriously. I think the people have spoken. We want this information.
There we go, Mike.
Yeah, he made some interesting points. I can tell you that those redactions are currently been going on under the current administration, not the previous one. That's not a good sign either. This shouldn't be the case right now. Trump was supposed to be the disclosure president. He ran on his campaign making points like that.
Well, he didn't say he was going to be the disclosure president. There were a lot of people that asked him those questions during the campaign, and he said, yeah, I declassify that. We just haven't gotten there yet, apparently. 100 days in.
No.
Get a long time to go.
Yeah, I know. But we have the UAP hearing under the task force coming up on May 12th. This information, if he was actually pro-disclosure, proactive, we would be getting more information.
Well,
we
don't
seem to be getting it from people who are coming forward, like Matthew Brown.
Well, don't forget, we were promised to have all of the declassification of documents given out to the public well in advance of any hearing that was going to be going on.
Correct. That was the way that Representative Luna had described it.
Right, which means if we're less than 2 weeks out from that time frame, granted, there was a lot of crap that was was disclosed, if you want to call, or dropped from the National Archives. That was due to hit anyway. It's not like there was anything new or special. Was there anything monumental that came out of those records dump? I don't think so.
Nothing burger. No, it was a nothing burger. Everyone had scanned with AI when it came out, the drop to the National Archives, and they found nothing in there. And if she's going to make the focus of the next upcoming hearing about that document dump, we're going to be getting another nothing burger for that hearing. So
now supposedly they've mentioned that there may be another, if you want to call it, crash retrieval whistleblower who's going to come out for this potential hearing. Let's just hope it's not one of Greer's guys or another friend of Jake Barber's.
Yes, let's definitely hope that that's not the case, because if it is, disclosure is in a real bad state at this point. But we'll find out after May 12th. It doesn't look good. I mean, and even if they have another whistleblower that comes forward, what is that person going to do? Provide any actual evidence to support the claims? Probably not. And I could tell you that the public is completely frustrated with hearing these stories and not getting anything to back any of it up. So are we, for that matter.
You mean, Mike, we're going to get another trust me bro sandwich?
Yes. Another nothing burger shit show, which people in the general public are so fucking tired of hearing. It's the same thing over and over again, and the needle has not moved. People just want the needle to move at this point.
Right. No, I think go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, if you would listen to what Matthew Brown was saying, he said that the government does in fact have this information, and they are not releasing it to the public. He's speaking publicly about it, but he's putting his life on the line by doing that.
Right. And
it shouldn't be coming from him. It should be coming from the government at this point.
It should be.
Getting it.
Now, one of the things that also came out about a week and a half ago, my mind's a bit blurry on this one from all the fever and everything. Wasn't there a statement, something to the extent that we will get acknowledgement of the non-human intelligence, but we will not get confirmation? That was coming from Lou, wasn't it?
Yeah, Lou made a point before we went off the air that there should be an acknowledgement, but no confirmation. So he may have some inside information as to if there is an announcement that's made that acknowledges any type of presence here on Earth, that we're not alone. I think you and I got a sneak peek of what an announcement like that would sound like when former President Barack Obama went out on a late night show and said that there are, in fact, objects in the sky that we don't know where they come from, what they are, but they're definitely here and they're real. That is the closest that we got from a former sitting president to what that announcement would sound like about an acknowledgement without a confirmation.
Right.
We might get the same thing like that again. But that would also be opening up Pandora's box. You and I have talked about this as well. Any type of an acknowledgement. And if they were to say, we don't know what it is, people at that point would be demanding answers. Why don't you know? What is it? What do you know so far? It wouldn't go just making a statement like that and move on. It's one of the reasons I believe that they're not looking to make a statement like that anytime soon. What do you think?
Yeah,
they don't want to admit they don't know anything.
Well, they'll admit that they're not admitting anything, because even if they did go and admit that even they had a screw or a piece of metal from it, they can't even acknowledge, they can't even admit that, Mike.
No, they cannot. That's the screw theory, the bolt that you and I talked about repeatedly here on the show.
Mm-hmm.
That if there was an acknowledgement that there was a bolt, which is a very prosaic, simple item, but it was not made on this earth and it has exotic material, it wouldn't be something that people would just let go and move on with either. They would demand answers. And it's something that the government would probably not want to disclose. Now, in this recent meeting that Lou was moderating, Dr. Eric Davis had made a point that we don't know much about these objects or who's operating them. Even after the decades of research that's been being done, the government actually knows very little about any of these things. So if that's in fact the case, I don't believe they would want to publicly acknowledge that, because it would make them look stupid, and it would also make people really uneasy about what the hell might be going on. So they're going to avoid it, and unless they're forced. So people like Matthew Brown, who've been coming out, if we get people like that, and that comes out to be credible, and the claims that they're making, it may squeeze the government to giving some type of an acknowledgement, because as time goes on, if more information like this comes out, they're not going to be able to continue to stick their head in the sand and ignore this endlessly. There's going to have to admit to something at one point. That's how I see it.
Yeah. A lot of things aren't adding up. If we can, Alice, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, Thomas, I just want to say thank you for doing the show tonight, and I hope you continue to improve. I think it's a lot that you came on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're not going to do a full show today, folks, but wanted to get back on and just keep the...
Let everybody know that we're still
I'm
around.
alive.
And, yep, not dead yet.
Oh.
And one thing, when I saw the debunking of Lou's photo, my heart just sank. And I know you guys think so much of him. What was your initial feeling when that you saw that?
That he probably should not have come forward with anything before he had a chance to vet it. It was a mistake. It was an error in judgment, like Thomas and I have been making points about it. He should know better. He does know better. So why he did this so quickly and created more of a pushback, I don't know.
Stop acting like there was an I in team, Lou. Work with the people who are around you. You don't have to carry everything yourself. Then again, if you've got the UAPDF, you've got all these people around you that can possibly help you. Delegate. Don't make a fool of yourself or the entire community with this stuff, because every single time you do this, you're going to get a lot. Your face is going to turn red. I know it is, from all the horrible things people have been saying, but it's not necessary. It's not like breaking news. We've got to bring this out and show it to you right now. No, you don't have to.
Yeah, it could have been avoided quite easily, like you've said. He didn't have to show it unless he knew exactly what it is that he was showing, and he chose to. And he's not alone in D.C., just so you know. A good friend, his personal attorney, Ivan Hanel, who's been on the show several times, is down there with Lou in D.C. all week. So Lou is not there winging it on his own. He's got plenty of people for support, including, you would think, he's in D.C., the New Paradigm Institute. Where's Danny Sheehan?
Yeah.
Right? Where are these people?
Well, I hope this doesn't set that back a little too much. You know, with disclosure, people just say, "Oh, look at that." It's sad, because he's been doing a good job.
Well, but he should not be making mistakes or errors like this. He should
Not
know
like
better.
that. Not in his.
These are amateur mistakes from some that shouldn't be coming from someone who's been as deeply involved in this as long as he has been. There's no excuse.
Thanks
Since 2008, he was working with the Bigelow Group and OSAP until he took over ATIP in 2012 and then resigned in 2017. And he's familiar with this subject, and he knows that before you bring something out publicly, especially to Congress, you should vet it. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, don't bring it out. Because he already made this mistake during his live appearances when he showed that chandelier video and had claimed that it was authentic and credible. And then it got debunked. Pretty hard it got debunked. So if he didn't learn from that lesson, it's amazing.
But it didn't take the community long to debunk this stuff. Not even debunk it. It's not even, well, I guess it's debunking it. It's just going and literally being able to go ahead and trying to figure out what are we actually just looking at here.
Right.
Thomas, you would have seen that immediately, I think, because you're good at picking things out of pictures.
Maybe not, but you know what? There's more than enough people out there that are image experts who are able to quickly tear this down, and it sounds like those people should be part of the team. And this doesn't have to be a one-man band, and it shouldn't be.
No, right. That's what makes the most sense. And the problem with when things like this occur in a setting like this, it really shouldn't. And when it does, it's at the very least an error in judgment, which is why he's been getting all that pushback. It can't be explained logically.
Yeah,
that's the problem. That's what Thomas and I are trying to convey to everybody. You should have known better.
Yeah. Thank you for your opinion, guys.
Absolutely. Ashes, your hand is up.
Thank you, Thomas. I was not pleased with the professional level that happened at the hearing. Obviously, Luna, I know she's young, but she should have stayed for the whole thing. She should have maintained her posture. And Tim Burchett is like my favorite dude, but why is he being so kind of like lazy about this when he was brought on the team?
What do you mean being lazy?
Like his demeanor, and he doesn't ask questions like he should. I don't understand, because before he was on the team, or task force, he was very interested and he was talking about it. And then he got on the task force and it's like his whole demeanor changed. And I don't understand why. Because I thought that when you work on a team, you're supposed to like motivate your other teammates in this.
Well, yeah, that's he could be there to motivate the teammates, but the person whose job it is to motivate everybody and get them there is Anna Polina Luna.
Correct.
Yeah, and that made me upset because she's supposed, I've tried to support what she's doing, but she is a woman, and
And
yeah, well, that's what's frustrating to me is that she's a female, and she should not be giving us a bad name, I guess, as people in Congress, because we can get things done if we put our minds to it. And it just seems like she's being lazy about it. Like, I remember going through the JFK files when they first dropped. They were so like mislabeled and unorganized and just crazy. The RFK files that I just went through, they were a little better, but they were still tedious to go through. Nothing was labeled. It was labeled with dates, but it was labeled like section 1A, section 1B. It didn't really have, oh, these are the autopsy photos, or like this is the witness testimony, or these are letters for RFK's condolences. It didn't have that kind. It was framed a little bit better, but not by much. So it's so frustrating to see these people who we have elected and how they have called out other people for not doing their jobs, and then they slack off.
yeah. Wow.
A good point. And that's the point. Same points that Thomas and I have been making for the longest time about the government's interaction with the public, how they've been addressing this situation in regards to disclosure. And it's been, including that JFK hearing, it's been a giant shit show the whole time.
Well, I do. Go ahead.
Sorry. The second part I had, though, is Matthew Brown did drop some information that Rubio and Warren, and I can't remember the third name, were all briefed in a skiff in that Immaculate Constellation report. And Rubio had mentioned, from what Matthew Brown had found, that the executive branch is where it has been hiding for 50 plus years. And that it seemed like the government wasn't really running it. So what does that mean exactly? Well,
he went in to explain prior to that statement that there is a consortium of military industrial complex companies that are multinational, and that they seem to have their own agenda that has been running the disclosure cover-up, and not just in this country, but other countries as well. So the cliffhanger that Corbell had left with part one of the three parts that he's covering for Matthew Brown, he left off on that cliffhanger where Matthew Brown said that our government may not be running the show on this. So we're going to wait to hear what else he has to say in part two and part three. We'll see where that goes. But either way, it's not really a good sign. And it's conflicting information. And so far, like Thomas and I say all the time now, whatever your claims may be, whoever you may be, wherever you come from, all you have to do with all of these claims is just produce some information or evidence to back up those claims. And so far, we haven't gotten any of that.
Yeah.
I agree. And I knew about companies like Raytheon and Skunkworks and DARPA and all of those other, companies. But to hear that part about the executive branch now, like my ears are really perked up. So what's really going on? Because we've heard that some of the presidents have been briefed.
Read in.
Have not.
Yeah.
Well, the first Bush, George Herbert Bush, not George Walker, he was head of the CIA before he was elected president. And he said that he was read in when he was in charge of the CIA. But when he became president and took the oath of office, he was expecting to get a briefing on it, and he never did. The only information he got was at the time that he was in the CIA. What does that tell you? Nothing good. It's a big shit show. the government doesn't seem to, one hand doesn't know what the other one's doing.
That seems to be going on. Absolutely. Now, I do have a clip here, Mike, of last night's Cuomo, I believe, where Michael Gold and Lou Elizondo were on with Cuomo talking about calls for more UAP research just for more research funded on UAPs for that matter. Not
just that, but this is a good clip because Mike Gold, who I'm not really a fan of, he is saying that.
Well, do you want to listen to it first?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's go ahead and play that before we tell everybody what the good part is. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
Tell us about the pictures you brought today, what they mean to you and what they should mean to the government.
So one of the images I showed today, well, we'll do. One of the images that I showed today was from Apollo 17, and it looks like a triangular UAP. It's actually very similar to many of the other images that you've seen from UAP footage that people have taken. And to be honest, I don't know what it is. I don't think Lou could tell you. I don't think anyone could tell you. But what I do know is that it's worth investigating. These are anomalous phenomena that are inexplicable. And even if it doesn't turn out to be something extraordinary, this could be a natural phenomena that could be quite interesting. It could be ice particles that could be very important. We must look at this data. We must get to the truth, demand transparency, and that's how we learn through anomalies. That's how science is done. That's how learning is driven.
And it's how you build trust in the government, Lou. I mean, that's what's at the all-time low right now, and this is such a layup for them. What is the resistance? Do they think, you guys are crazy and that there is nothing to know?
Now, I'll tell you, Chris, that was not what we saw today on Capitol Hill. We had, under the leadership of Rep. Luna, and Rep. Burleson was there, Rep. Burchett, and Rep. Begich, all were there to hear the testimony of former intelligence officials, scientists, academics. We had Harvard professor Avi Loeb there from Harvard, also having a discussion with them open. This was a marathon forum. This lasted almost 4 hours, where they received an earful. And I'll tell you, I think this story is evolving. There was one individual who was a former astrophysicist who worked for us on ATIP named Eric Davis. And I suspect you're going to be hearing a lot of rumblings within the next week or two about what he told Congress.
I think, Chris, we are still dealing. Anna Paulina Luna, by the way. I like that she's doing this. I like that she has a STEM background, what she studied in college. I think it's good. I mean, look, Mike, this is why it matters. They're not even telling us what that crap is that's flying over the bases. Okay? And it's shutting down missions. I mean, it's so crazy that this is something that they should be anything but nonchalant about. This should be panic time.
Well, all of this information is publicly available. We spend a lot of time talking about classified information, things being hidden. I'd like to focus on what NASA is releasing to the public. For example, one of the other images that you're seeing here is of a lunar horizon glow. That's what looks like a sunrise on the moon. We capture that via Redwire's Argus cameras that were on the Firefly Blue Ghost system that landed on the moon just last month. And these are some of the exciting discoveries we're going to make on the moon. I don't know what that is. There was the theory that this lunar horizon glow was lunar dust that was rising, being electrostatically charged by the sun. But future experiments, past experiments that we've done, have shown that there isn't enough dust to create that effect, and that the electrostatic charge would not be able to create it. So we don't know what that is. It requires more study, more analysis. As the commercial space field moves forward, companies like Firefly, Redwire, SpaceX, Blue Origin, we're democratizing space. We're getting more imagery, more data that will potentially unlock the mystery of UAP and provide answers to this incredible question.
And Mike, let's be clear, that photo that they just showed, that is not the sun. Is that correct for the viewers out there?
It is not the sun. It is not the Earth. This is an anomalous phenomena in the truest sense of the word. We don't know what it is. It could be something extraordinary. It could be something natural. Either way, it demands research. It demands that we take a look at this. And this is just one of many images. This is just a cursory review of the treasure trove of data we could get if we did an AI ML search of the NASA archives, which is something that I hope all of your viewers call into your members of Congress and demand.
100%.
Chris, I'll tell you too that we had Admiral Tim Gallaudet with us as well, and former DASD at the Pentagon, Chris Mellon, and all of them were really echoing what Mike Gold is telling you here, is that there is an urgent need for greater transparency and to minimize the over-secrecy, because right now, as you said, Chris, the faith and confidence is at an all-time low with our own government.
Yeah.
I'd have to agree with that, Mike. What are your thoughts?
Oh, 100%. That's a true statement that Lou made. And this new system that NASA landed on the moon a month ago, it's already getting pictures like this, but we didn't get these pictures released publicly a month ago. Why now? Why the timing of getting information like this now? NASA, never a straight answer. They have never given us anything useful or relevant on this subject. They have hidden and buried any photos or video that they've had up until this point.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to
So I don't know why they're coming out with information like this now. And if that's not the Earth and it's not the sun and there is no atmosphere on the moon, then the question remains, what the fuck are we looking at? What is that? And if there's some sort of activity going on right on the moon like this, that's interesting. And he also suggested, my goal, that we should be doing AI, machine language, ML learning to scan and search through all of the NASA archives. I wonder what they would find if they actually did that. But I don't think
well, which archives do we want them to go through? The ones where it's the original images, or the ones that are supposedly doctored that are shared with the public?
Oh, yeah. No, obviously the original ones, but that's a good point you make, because he said these are the public images that NASA has shown to the public. Yeah, you're right. We want them to dig out the archives that have not been doctored and see what they find.
Give it access to the source material and start training the system. But then again, the data that you're going to train it with, you have to have a control set of data for it to train it to be able to figure out what's going on. It's not just going to be able to look at images and point out and say, hey, look, that's a UFO.
It doesn't have to be a UFO. You could look for something anomalous, something that doesn't fit the criteria of prosaic items. So it could be set to task for identification. And when it finds objects or things that it can't properly identify, boom, there you go, jackpot. But are they going to fund something like that? No. Are they going to put forward something like that? No, probably not.
No.
It's unfortunate because the answers could be lying right there. So that's the one statement coming out of Mike Gold that I agree with.
Yeah.
And Lou was on point with this, but it's also frustrating because it's like the carrot and the stick. They're teasing the public with, well, the truth is right here if we decide to show it to you, but we're not. And people get very frustrated and pissed off about that.
Oh, yeah.
And like we said about Lou, if you're going to put something out there, then verify it first. And if you did verify it, don't put it out there. I could make the same point about NASA. If they're going to disclose their archives and release to all the information to the public, and that's the plan moving forward, then by all means, show us these photos and tell us that's what you're doing. But if you're not going to be doing that, this is just something that can be something or nothing.
Just another distraction, in other words.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. We don't know what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. And they made damn sure of that. They should not have showed it if they're not really going to take an active approach to releasing any and all information that NASA has been collecting for decades now. Decades. So, you know, that's why people are frustrated and pissed off about this. They shouldn't be doing that. They have no real intention on giving us the information that we're looking for. They're just keeping it up in the air. See, like what happened was those 3 videos that Lou had released in 2017, and the New York Times did the article on it. Those videos in the Pentagon were unclassified, and Lou chose to pick unclassified information to share publicly. It seems like anything that comes from the government is something that they don't feel is too revealing, and that's what comes out. Not anything legitimate, not anything that is beyond the shadow of a doubt. Like when Lou was on the show with us recently, and we were talking about the 23-minute UAP video from our sensors from a drone that he couldn't answer, and we were able to provide those answers to the audience. If you're going to show and give the audience the truth, then the public, do it. And if you're not going to share the truth with the public, then just at this point, don't say anything about it. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's causing a lot of aggravation to people.
Oh, I'd have to agree with you on that 100%. Sergeant Daniel, your hand is up.
Yeah, I want to point out the fact that as far as the whistleblower goes, Matthew Brown, I listened to that whole thing, and it was a cliffhanger, and it was kind of, he was going on and on and on. But after I thought about it for a while, I thought, well, what happens if they tried to take him to jail? Then they're just it's gonna say, well, everything he's saying is true. But if they don't take him to jail, then there's going to be about 3,000-4,000 people that all have this information that know they're not going to jail either, because they can't just pick and choose who they're going to go after.
Right.
So I think that if they don't come up with a court order and stop Jeremy Corbell from, coming out with that.
No, they wouldn't need a court order. It's called national security, and they can haul anyone else, so they can haul and lock anyone else up if they want.
They could see the video and they could arrest Matthew Brown.
And they could also arrest. They could also lock up Corbell and Knapp, even though they're journalists. When it comes to national security, Mike, there is no bounds.
But they came out. But that as far as that goes, then they'll say, well, we're not going to prosecute someone for lying. So, once it's out, if you get a couple of people out that, come out that really have firsthand knowledge, I think you're going to have some kind of the bystander effect. If someone falls down, nobody will do anything until the first person stops and helps. I think that once that happens, I think that it's over. I think that a lot of people are going to start coming forward, and from an optimistic standpoint. And I think that Luna, most likely, since she does have a top secret clearance, they probably briefed her in on it. So she's bored.
I wouldn't think they would have.
I think
she's too low down the totem pole.
I don't know. If she's in charge of it and they say, you really want to know what's going on, here it is. You just can't say nothing. And
she doesn't have the clearances required. This isn't hey, come on, you're the head of this club. We're going to fill you in on this. No, only the people who have a need to know are going to know.
That's correct. You need a TSSCI clearance, and you need to know authorization coming all the way up from the top. Otherwise, you do not have authorization or access to any of the government's information.
He's not a member of the Gang of Eight?
Yes.
Don't you think that there's got to be hundreds and hundreds of people with all that knowledge in their head that aren't coming forward because they're afraid to go to jail? And if they don't take one person to jail, they can't take them all. They're just going to.
Oh yeah, they could.
Yeah, they could. They could, but would they? And once
why not?
Telling the truth.
When it comes down to national security, there are no bounds.
But is the national security legal? Is this shit?
Of course, is national security legal? Come on, Sergeant Daniel.
No, I'm saying, is the stuff that they're claiming is national security? Threatening people.
They can claim the color of the ocean or the color of the sky as national security. And if you repeat it, we will lock you up, and they can do it.
Well, I think the shenanigans that they've been playing behind the scenes would be considered illegal.
Well, of course, what they've been doing for the longest time has been illegal. But you know what? Go ahead and try and get it done when you're dealing with an organization that was put in place and under play in the executive branch.
Right. I just think once it got to court,
it would never get. What do you think? It's not going to go to court. That would never go to court.
Constitutionally, it has to.
No, you don't.
No, we don't.
Look up the 1917 Espionage Act, which they're trying to charge Edward Snowden with. Snowden said publicly that he wanted his day in court. The problem is when they prosecute you under the Espionage Act, you have no legal defense. You will not be heard publicly. You will not be able to defend yourself. It's a one-way ticket to either a life sentence or execution. That's why he won't come back to this country. They could charge Brown with it under the Espionage Act. Now, that being said, if you put yourself in the government's shoes right now, I could tell you the smart move for them would be not to prosecute Brown, not acknowledge what he's claiming, because if they did, it would be giving confirmation to the public that some of the things that he's saying could be true. If they don't go ahead and charge him and they let the public challenge the claims that are being made, it'll go by the wayside like it usually does. So it's a good tactic using for decades now. I have a feeling they can continue to do exactly that. No matter who comes with it,
Mike, we're losing you.
Down, because eventually it does.
You want to repeat what you just said? Because we lost about a majority of what you said for the last 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. What I'm saying is if you put yourself in the government's shoes, it would probably be best to let this play out in the public eye. Because if they were to charge anybody criminally on this, it would be confirmation, which is something they don't want. So if they
we're losing you again.
Down. I don't know what's going on with my goddamn internet signal. It's my Wi-Fi. It's
I don't know.
Acting funny. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
We got you, but it was, as you get into it, you just start breaking up with digital compression issues, like your signal's dropping out.
Okay. Let me check something real quick. Let me try. And I'm going to go on cellular and see if we get a better signal.
Sure.
Okay. How am I now?
I think you're holding up. We'll see how it holds.
Well, I'm on a different network, so
I know.
Hopefully
Let's
it's
see how it
more
holds.
stable. Yeah. So yeah, the government would be smart by leaving this alone and letting it die down on its own, which it eventually will. If they were to criminally charge Brown or Corbell on that, then they're giving confirmation to the public that the claims that are being made are credible. And that's not something that they would willingly do. So I think the strategy that they've been using for decades now by letting people come forward and making outlandish claims, but ignoring it like it never happened, it puts doubt in people's minds that these claims are true, especially if there's no evidence to support any of these claims. So I have a feeling we're not going to hear much from the government about Matthew Brown, regardless of what he says. I doubt it.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's where we're at with all this. Classified information is something that the government won't acknowledge. There were accounts where journalists had actual classified information that they wrote articles about, and the government chose not to prosecute them because if they did, they knew that it would confirm the information. But if it was put out there without anything to back it up or support it, then people are going to have doubt. So they're probably going to have that same approach with what we're hearing coming out right now at Brown. So I don't think he's technically in jeopardy. if they choose to go after him. I just don't think logically that they're going to take that approach. It wouldn't help them to do it. So I think that we're going to hear more about his story on Tuesday, and we're going to probably end up with another cliffhanger until the third installment. That should wrap this up. But I can tell you that, you know, Thomas and I were talking about this privately, and if Brown is claiming and Corbell that the reason that he's come out publicly right now is because his life is in jeopardy, and the only way he can be truly protected is to get his story out to the public once and for all. And if he does that, they're not going to kill him. They're not going to go after him, because then they would turn this into making his claims credible. So they wouldn't do it. What I am struggling with is, if that's in fact the case, then why is it that Corbell is choosing to make this like a soap opera with cliffhangers instead of getting all the information out there to protect this guy? So I find fault with how they're releasing this information in that manner.
Oh, come on, Mike. It's a media plan. They're not
It's a
going to go
shitty
ahead
one.
and blow it all at once. They're going to do a little bit, and a little bit, and build up to it over time. I know you want to have it all now, but you just have to be realistic. It's a media company. What they do with Weaponized. They've been having this information with Mr. Brown for months. It's nothing new.
No.
At least they're finally bringing it out. So beggars shouldn't be. Well, I forget the
Choosers.
Choosers,
That's how
yeah.
that goes. Yeah, I get it. But you know what? They said the reason they're doing this is to save his life and get the information out publicly. Well, then do it.
Yeah.
Then get it out. Why drag this out endlessly? It's
not endlessly, Mike. It's over 3 weeks. Come on.
Yeah, come on. We have a fucking hearing coming out on the 12th. They should try to get this out before that, and that's right around the
You know
corner.
what? I'm not holding my breath for the hearing like I haven't been holding my breath for anything going on. I think they should stick to their guns on their time frame, and when they want to get it out, they're going to get it out. Fuck what's going on in Washington and everything else, because they can't get anything done anyway.
No, that's true. They usually can't.
Hey, at least we got this stuff with Daniel with Mr. Brown this week. At least we got
Matthew
that.
Brown. Yeah. No, that's the only thing we got that so far is interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe credible. Definitely more so than anything we've heard from
Oh,
previous
definitely much more
whistleblowers.
credible than what we got out of frickin' James Barber and Stephen Greer. Hey, you know what I like about this stuff coming out with Mr. Brown, Immaculate Constellation? We don't have Ross gloating about all the information that he knows that he can't tell us.
Yeah,
I am
there's
so
still
sick of that
pushback
line.
coming on the internet, on social media, on X, about why Ross is not revealing that information. That goes to show you the level of frustration the public has with this already, that if a journalist like Ross is in possession of information that would break this wide open once and for all, why the fuck is he not bringing that information out?
Because he's not being a true reporter. He's inserted himself into the story. So now everything he knows, he becomes the story rather than the story being the story. That's the problem with his reporting.
Well, plus he's also really big on the Jake Barber story and Skywatcher and Stephen Greer and CE5 and all that other stuff. So he seems to be having his focus on that as opposed to anything concrete or legitimate that he might be in possession of.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That I see. And it's unfortunate because he's a private citizen. He's not a citizen of the United States.
Yeah.
There is nothing preventing him from releasing any information that would move the needle on actual disclosure.
You know, the movie they could title, I know there's a show on Apple TV I've been watching about this, but it also applies to Ross. They could have a movie about Ross Coulthart, and they could call the title of the movie Kool-Aid.
That's an inside joke to the audience. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's something that they're not going to understand, but we get it.
Oh, yeah.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, it's true. You're right.
Yeah.
So something's got to give but we're not getting it out of DC now. And it seems like all of the people that are well known in this community publicly are regurgitating the same information over and over and over again. And we're not getting anything new, different, or anything that's credible so far to date. And it's disappointing. That's what I have to say. It's frustration because people deserve the truth. People want the truth. And even something simple like an acknowledgement that we're not alone on this planet, because we're not. We can't even seem to get that out of the current administration that claim to be pro-disclosure. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, we give it time. It's only been 100 days. Still have a long time to go in 4 years.
Yeah, but DNI Tulsi Gabbard, who's a public servant, is focusing on her brand and her subscription on social media for people to pay to hear her information, which usually is comprised of normal press releases. So this money grab thing seems to be the focus of a lot of people in Washington. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why the distraction is preventing us from getting the actual truth once and for all.
No, Mike, I know I was out with the fever and everything, and I listened to the stuff with what do you call Matthew Brown talking about stuff. Did Matthew Brown say, I don't think he said that Immaculate Constellation was set up by Elizondo. Did he say that? Because I have someone in the audience saying that. James Brown is saying
that. He's saying that Lou Elizondo set up the Immaculate Constellation unacknowledged special access program in the Pentagon. Oh, he did not.
I know he didn't.
Absolutely
yeah.
Not.
I think there's a little bit of confusion there because even with a fever, I didn't pick that up.
No, absolutely not. But now, for the first time, Matthew Brown explained in detail how he discovered the Immaculate Constellation program, and it was buried in a war game scenario that he discovered and started reading and realized that it's also a special access program, and read the details of what Immaculate Constellation is, but they had it buried under a war game profile. So, no. And then, of course, because of the way that he found it, you might be able to say that maybe they placed it there as disinformation and wanted him to find it and bring it out publicly to just dissuade people from learning the actual truth. It could be a disinformation operation. Maybe. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it could be, because he said repeatedly, I found it accidentally. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe it was bait. Maybe they wanted to see, how far it would go. And if it ever did come out publicly and they know it's all bullshit, people would have a bad taste in their mouth for believing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of a number of possible answers for all of this right now.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Let's go on to Ashes next. Ashes.
That's a possibility, Mike. I didn't think about that. So I did see that Lou apologized on X, but after you showed that clip, that news clip, and him dodging the question, I don't feel like it was very sincere. And Luna has been posting about witnesses dying from the Epstein list. And I'm like, why don't you protect these whistleblowers that have all this information if you know who they are, And the other thing is, if they wouldn't have fumbled the ball on this briefing with the audio and everything, because who wants to sit there and listen to a 3.5 hour long briefing, let alone with crappy audio? I did hear a bombshell that Davis dropped, especially like for new people into this. He was talking about the different types of species. And
oh, God.
But he's already talked about all these in the past. Here's the thing. What Davis brought out, I don't think there was really anything new that he hasn't said before that you could have heard a lot better in any previous interview that he's been in.
I agree, but not everybody pays attention to.
Well, I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to pay attention to this 4-hour Wonderfest that they had in D.C. because the audio was so freaking horrible. It just goes to show that you just don't go ahead and show up and have your event. You get there hours ahead of time. You do audio checks. You do pre-rolls. You do everything set up, and you invest in equipment that's going to be necessary. Just don't fly people around and get rental cars and expensive hotels and great meals for them to have when they're there. It's about, if you're there for that meeting and for that presentation, that's the goal, what you're there for. And if you can't even prepare for something as simple as that, what the fuck are you doing it for?
I agree, but if it would have been covered better and more professionally, and people would have been tuning in for the first time to listen to this, because
But people have been tuning into the first time onto this since 2017. This is nothing new. We can say, yeah, they're bringing more people, and I think they've brought more people in the past compared to what they're doing now. They're scaring people away.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, I know that he was also talking about some very complicated science-y stuff, and a lot of people were like, what the hell is he talking about? They didn't really understand, and he wasn't talking into the mic. He was like, all of the panelists were looking at each other instead of looking where they should have been and speaking into the mics the way they should have.
No, there were mics there, but they were worrying on the mics being broadcast through the tinny speaker system in the actual conference room, rather than having little microphones they would actually pin to the different people so they could switch between the audio streams of the different people that they're talking as they're talking to get that beamed into, if you want to call it the presentation equipment or the live streaming equipment or the cameras and everything else, to go ahead and actually give a quality presentation that would have legs that people could turn to for years and easily listen to. You know, people like Martin Willis, Mike, tried to go ahead and clean it up, and it's like me trying to clean up Matt Laszlo's audio sometimes. You just have to give up and just say, screw it, because it is what it is. If there's a bad echo, there's bad sound, there's everything else. There's only so much good stuff you can pull out of something that's really piss poor quality.
I just know if I was the average person that hadn't heard anything about this before, and I was tuning into it because it got news coverage.
But you're trying to listen to it and you couldn't. Wouldn't that kind of be defeating?
Yeah, I doubt. Exactly. I doubt that I would understand anything that they're saying or try to. But if it would have been done more professionally, I probably would have been picking my jaw up off the floor with some of the stuff that they said, because, you know, coming from someone that in the past didn't know as much as like what you guys know on the show, I would have been shocked to hear the testimony coming from the different people in front of Congress.
Yeah.
It's just a bummer that the audio didn't work out.
Well, there were only 3 or 4 people there from Congress, so it's not like they were giving it to a full panel. It was more of a panel. It was some people listening to it, but yeah, it was a mess. It was a hot mess. Michael Suckloff, your hand is up.
Yeah, anything that the government tells us now at this point in time, how do we know that it's valid? And as opposed to what the public has been saying about this topic.
You trust the government, Michael?
My government or your government?
Either. I don't trust either.
There you go. So why would, if they disclose something, how do we know it's valid?
We don't.
And why are we looking towards our governments to validate what we already know?
Because it would be confirmation, Michael. And we can trust it, but we need to verify. So they
no, but Mike, no. What Michael comes down to, what he's asking, how do you trust it? Well, how do you know? Trust me, bro. That's what we're stuck with, Michael. Trust me, bro.
We're also saying, show us the proof, show us the evidence.
Yeah, I know.
Not just tell us. So they would have to verify it, Michael, if we're going to take anything from them seriously. They have no choice. That's the point. That's how you do it. Get the evidence, which Thomas and I have been saying for the longest time now, and continue to.
And what are the chances of them being able to falsify the evidence that they present? How do we?
Because whatever information they would bring out would then have to be re-verified and made sure that what we're seeing is true. Just like when Lou brought out that photo of a UFO, you saw how quickly it was shown to not be what it was claimed to be. So a process similar to that, I believe, Michael.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Syrup, go ahead.
Yeah, who was the science lady at the end? Didn't she have a lot to say? Wasn't she? I didn't watch any of it, right? But it's going
Science
off what I
lady?
seen on Twitter. There was a lady, a blonde lady during this conference that had, I think she said something, she was saying something along the lines of the government is on the verge of cracking this stuff, or we're going to start seeing this stuff.
Oh, hell no. Eric Davison says we don't have a fucking clue.
Well, there was a lady basically saying that during this conference. The blonde
I don't
lady.
know who you're talking about.
Mike, do you know who I'm talking about? Someone's got it.
Actually, I don't. And I listened to it. I don't know the lady you're talking about, sir.
Are you talking about Sarah Gam, who's been from
Was
other
that?
things in the past?
Maybe
She wasn't at the hearing.
She wasn't at this conference thing?
No.
No.
Okay.
Thank God. No one needed their fortune told.
Yeah.
She charges $150 to do.
Well, not just fortunes. Come on, she talks to dead people. There's a difference.
And another question while I got you guys' attention. I was discussing this with a few people. And okay, so Eric Davis with those memos,
Anna
right?
Brady Estes was her name. Sorry.
That was her name? Was that the lady?
Yes, her name was Anna Brady Estes.
And where was she from, Ashes?
Do what?
What was her pedigree?
Roll there. Yeah.
Anna Brady Estes is a funding partner of American Deep Tech. She's a former National Science Foundation and Small Business Administration Innovation Advisor, which doesn't surprise me because I've talked about the Small Business Administration before.
Yeah.
In other words, she's a nobody.
Do what?
You've done research on it before with this angle, with the Small Business Administration.
Yes.
But as far as this hearing is concerned, I don't really think that she was relevant at that hearing, that meeting.
Well, she was talking about biotech, energy, and AI, seeing UAP like as a point of progress in those areas.
In other words, the commercialization of the search for ET is what she's looking at it from.
But it sounds like.
Yeah. And all we're talking about in that particular part, we're talking about the billionaires coming in, or the millionaires, or whoever it is, coming ahead and funding yet another layer of obfuscation to keep the truth from coming out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or if they could make a business model out of it.
Yeah.
For profit. Mm-hmm.
Real quick, Eric, okay, with the memo thing with Eric Davis and Wilson, right? He was trying to find out information. How far did he get? And could he, and with the information he ended up finding out, couldn't he give this information to Luna and them in a skiff or whatever?
In a skiff. But if you remember when he was asked about it at this meeting, he couldn't divulge the specifics of the memo that he had with Admiral Thomas Wilson. And Lou then said that he can go into a skiff to tell the other half of the information that he has because they can't speak about it publicly. So and if you remember, Davis never confirmed that he was the person who was speaking to Wilson. He just talked about the memo itself, and he was very vague about the details.
So what are the chances that these guys pulled Davis into a skiff? Shouldn't that be a priority or no?
But Davis hasn't had an active role in anything since what?
2012.
Yeah, 2012, a long time.
Yeah, so his information is about 15 years behind the times.
Yeah.
What is he going to do? He's going to say that he did, in fact, speak with Admiral Thomas Wilson? Great. If they then subpoena or request Thomas Wilson to testify, he's going to say that he did not speak with Eric Davis because he's been denying it since the story broke. And he's legally allowed to lie about it, as we've discussed before, under national security. So it wouldn't help them. And what was the aerospace company that was reverse engineering this program that Thomas Wilson had discovered? Oh, Lockheed. That's not exactly a big shock or a surprise. Now, are you going to be able to force Lockheed to admit the truth and the details of the program they were working on? Probably not.
Yeah.
So where would it get you with all that information? Sir, you're not going to get them to tell you what you want them to. It would take more than that, more than we've gotten so far. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why we're all frustrated.
Yeah.
Not just the public. We cover this. We look into this. We talk to these people. We deal with this. And we're frustrated like hell because it's not moving the way that it should. It's ridiculous at this point.
And it's run worse than a mom and pop shop.
Mm-hmm. Right, when it should be better organized than that, especially with the money involved. There's a lot of money that changes hands on this topic. And these organizations like the UAPDF, the New Paradigm Institute, all of these places, they should be better organized. And they're just not. It's almost like they don't give a shit. It's frustrating. It should be better run. And it ain't. Why we're not getting any of the information that we want.
Yeah.
Or deserve. We're not. The public has a right to know.
Yeah.
And
the
they're not
right to
giving it
know,
us.
the public needs to know that, Mike, my headache's coming back on pretty freaking fierce.
Oh, and we went almost a full 2 hours.
Yeah,
so
I know.
yeah,
I've been
it's
trying
about
to
that
find a
time.
spot to call this to an end, but I think we need to call this to an end.
Oh, I'm with you, brother. Let's just shut it down.
Yeah.
Thank everybody for coming.
Yep. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming out to this episode of Disclosure tonight. Thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. Thank you to the chat for all the wonderful super chats. I'd go through it and start reading it off, but my head is saying you need to go lay down on that note, Mike. Everyone in the back audience, as we usually say, Mike, thanks for coming out tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. It was a fun conversation. Thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. As we usually say at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everybody. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.